Hello everyone. Today we're going to have a look at modifying our login form so that our hard-coded data can be easily toggled between what you see here or something of this sort to our database. So we want to create a design pattern that will loosely couple our form from our database. So we're going to use Interface like we did for the book repository. We're going to create our own user repository to handle this circumstance. So the first thing we want to do, feel free to take note, by the way, I've moved a bunch of my classes into folders here just to keep my code a little more organized and clean. Each folder has its own responsibility. So that's what's going on in my Solution Explorer over there. But first thing we want to do is create that interface. I'm going to call it IEnumberable to represent user data. And my interface is right now just going to be one method, and it's going to have a return type of IEnumberable. This will provide some flexibility using this interface here, provide some flexibility of the return type of get all users. That way my functions that use this interface can be a list or a form. So we are using an interface to add even more flexibility. Now we're going to implement two different versions of this interface. And then bring in our repository here. Now it's going to tell us we need to implement get all users as we expected. So we could save a little bit of time of typing by just copying that right there. And it's just going to tell us we need a return type. So what we're going to do here is very similar to what we have over here. I'm going to copy this code because it's not super significant and it's pretty easy to go over. So we're just choosing our three types of users and we're returning a list. We're returning these three types of users as a list. And that's all we need to mock our data set here. We're returning these three users, and this will be our testing data set. Now let's build our skeleton for the future database implementation. And it's going to be the same as this, except what we return will just be, we're just going to use an empty list for right now. But in the future, this will be what we read from our database. So this is all we need to implement for our interface. Now we need to create a class that can, let's move this into repositories. Now we need to implement a service, or now we need to create a service class that implements this interface. So let's do that real quick. New class. This will be a smaller class. We're going to call this one user service. call it user manager too if we want to be consistent, but we're just gonna call it user service. And make that public. And this will take in the repository with some dependency injection. We can make this user service act as both the mock user and the SQLite user. So first we'll create a variable of that interface type, and we'll put the underscore user repository. Let's put an underscore, say private field. That would be proper. And then our constructor will assign this value. User service, this is our constructor, has the same name as our class. And it's going to be almost exactly this, except without the underscore. And then we're going to assign this to this value here. So now we've taken in this information, which this is what our LoginForm will define here. It'll take in this, the choice of our user repository. It could be either the mock or the SQLite one. And then we will be able to run this method, get all users. So we can actually copy this because this is what it'll be using. And I mean, we could name it differently, but I don't see a reason that we need to. And then we're just going to return, we're going to call that method the user repository get all users method. So now our user service will run either this method or this method. So whatever's inside of here or whatever's inside of here, depending on which one we send in to the user service. Now the last thing we want to do is update our LoginForm. So we're going to remove most of this code. This code will stay. We still need to do this because our LoginForm still needs to mock the OK. The user's going to click login. It's going to give it OK, which will then send us to our main form, and then it'll close. So we still want to do that. We can eliminate all of this. So now our login button does nothing, but now we're going to link it with these two, whereas before it was just hard-coded values of those 3 different types of users. So the last thing we want to do here is build a user service. User service. And here is where we decide which data set we want to use. Right now we're going to use the mock because our SQLite one is empty. Oh, I forgot to define this variable. Just like we did up here, created this private read-only. We're going to create a private read-only user service. And I said book, that's why. This needs to be mock user. There we go. And now we can populate our ComboBox. So that's what the end goal of all of this was. We wanted this ComboBox to be of the values coming from the database in the future. But we still want to have the ability to change back to regular data if we need to for simple testing. But we can easily convert our ComboBox to our get all users SQLite user repository by just changing this variable here. So now we're going to update our ComboBox field here with our interface. So the way we do that is we call the ComboBox. We take the data source and we use the user service variable we created right here. And then we run the method that we made, get all users. And this will populate our ComboBox. And we can also modify what the ComboBox displays. So there's a few different, where are we, models, user. There's a few different fields we could display. We could display the ID. That wouldn't make a lot of sense, but we could. Then there's the name or the email. If we didn't choose any of those, it would display probably something that looks kind of funny. Maybe like the object name or something of that sort. Cool, so now our ComboBox will display these values. Currently, when you click the login button, it doesn't read from the ComboBox, so we want to read from the ComboBox. Selected user, so I'm creating a temporary variable to assign the ComboBox value. Selected item as user. So because we're returning a user to the ComboBox, we can convert the value of that ComboBox line item, the selected item that you have, back into the user class, which makes this next step really seamless. And now we're going to read the selected user. Make sure it's not null. Make sure that the user has actually selected something in it. So we'll use this if-else. If it is null, then we are going to tell them, hey, you need to select a value. Please select a user. And if they did select a user, then we're just going to update our logged in user. We're going to update this value here, which is what gets sent to our user form right here. So back where we called our login form, we called our login form in our main function. And it's looking to send what type of user and that user information to the main form, that logged in user. And so that's what program CS is doing here. We don't need to change anything inside that function. We just send in this selected user on that list. And that should be all that we need to try out these different users. So let's run that. So we have regular user, premium user, and admin here. Regular user can only check out one book. Perfect. And let's test out premium user. Premium user can check out 5 books here, but not a 6th book, as we would have expected. Perfect. So that's all we need to do to create some modularity and flexibility with which data set gets sent into our ComboBox here. We can send in hard-coded values, or we can read from an external data source, in which case is our SQLite database. So that's all we're going to cover in this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Bye.